Well, we now continue our annual look back at the top 10 ag law and tax developments of the previous year and what they could mean for the farm sector as we move forward. Roger McEowen with the Washburn School of Law joins us now for a breakdown. Roger, always a pleasure. We started coming in at number 7. This is an issue that makes the list, I feel like, just about every year. We're talking about WOTUS. What are the highlights here?
Well, you're right, Suzanne. Good to be with you. It probably could make the list every year for the last 10 years, it seems like. Well, in 2023, the U.S. Supreme Court decided the Sackett case that we're all aware of, which defined a WOTUS to include only those wetlands that have a continuous surface connection with a navigable water of the United States, so that it is indistinguishable from that water. And that satisfies the adjacency test, the court said. Well, in 24, last year, there was a federal district court also in Idaho that dismissed a case that the federal EPA brought against a ranch because the EPA failed to specify in its complaint how the ranching activities violated that adjacency test of the Sackett decision in relation to a navigable river that flowed through the ranch and the associated wetlands with that. Big case.
Big case and continues to be. Hobby loss regulations coming up now at number 6. What do we need to know here?
Well, this is an interesting one. There was a tax court decision in 2024 involving the hobby loss rules, meaning no deduction if you're a hobby. And the ranch lost the case. It was a Texas ranch. They lost the case and then, interestingly enough, asked the tax court to reconsider their opinion based on the Supreme Court repealing Chevron deference earlier in 2024. And the tax court, surprisingly to me, did so. So the Treasury regulations governing hobby losses are now under review as to whether they're even valid.
Wow. Coming in at number 5, we're hitting the halfway point here. What do we got?
This is another U.S. Supreme Court decision on when income is taxable. And the court said that even though a shareholder, an American shareholder in a foreign corporation, didn't get a dividend and didn't get a distribution from the corporation, it could be taxed on the increase in the value of their stock holdings. And it has to do with a repatriation tax that was enacted as part of the 2017 tax law, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. But the court said also, importantly, in a footnote, that it wasn't blessing a wealth tax, like a Senator Warren wealth tax or something similar to that. But in a pass-through entity, the court said that realization at the corporate level could be attributed to the shareholders. That's an interesting decision and a big one potentially going forward.
Well, another big issue, we're going to squeeze in one more here, impacting most farmers. We're talking about EPA's Herbicide Draft Strategy. Give us an update here.
Yeah, what they did in 2024, and we'll have to see if the new administration continues this, but the EPA in 24 came up with some draft rules concerning how farmers apply pesticides on land where either an endangered or threatened species has some of its habitat. And that is millions and millions of acres in the United States. And they would put much greater restrictions on the application of pesticides. And so what it means is potentially every ground spraying could require a 200-foot buffer, and aerial applications could require up to a 500-foot buffer. And that could result in a significant amount of acreage not being treated due to the possibility of downwind spray drift. So we'll have to keep our eyes on that one to see whether those actually get finalized going forward.
You know, Roger, with everything that we're talking about on this list, there's so much on the line for our producers and farmers. How do you decide what makes the list, giving us your top 10 every year?
Actually, I start out, Suzanne, with this time it was over 40, and then I start to winnow them down based on how I feel their impact is on a nationwide basis. So I'm looking for those type of developments that would impact the majority of farmers or ranchers, or would have the potential to do so. So that's why you see in this list a lot of high-level federal court decisions, U.S. Supreme Court decisions, and regulatory agency decisions that will affect farmers all over the place.
I was going to say also, this is a good point, of course, to look back at what we've done, where we've come from, and how it's going to affect us, of course, in the new year. Just always great information. It is always such a pleasure to have you join us. Roger McEowen with the Washburn School of Law. We appreciate it. We'll continue that list, by the way, later this week.